Hello, I'm Congressman Adam Schiff, and I'd like to welcome you all to the YWCA Glendale's 23rd Annual Legacy Luncheon. Thanks to Executive Director Tara Peterson for inviting me to join you today, and to all of the YWCA staff for making this event possible, their first ever virtual luncheon. The YWCA has always been a place for our community to gather, and it's wonderful that even during these unprecedented times, we can still connect with one another. Today, you can look forward to an engaging series of conversations highlighting YWCA Glendale's work to fight racism and empower women. Their heart and excellence honorees are women from Glendale, Pasadena, and Burbank who are doing tremendous work to uplift and support others in our community. They're being recognized for initiatives to empower home cooks, eliminate food waste in schools, create new forms of homelessness outreach and prevention, and much, much more. I know you will enjoy hearing their stories. I'd like to congratulate all 7 of these honorees, as well as the recipient of the Cammie's Courage Memorial Scholarship and the 2 special recognition awardees for their extraordinary commitment to community service. YWCA Glendale plays such an important role in our community, serving as a place of support and inspiration for so many of these nominees who are then able to give back and enrich our community even further. The funds raised from this event will go to the YWCA Glendale's domestic violence shelter and critical services like their 24-hour hotline, adult and child therapy, case management, legal advocacy, support groups, and emergency financial assistance. It will also help run Camp Rosie, the summer camp that empowers girls with a STEAM education. The demand for these services has increased dramatically during the pandemic, and your support will help them meet the growing need felt across our Glendale, Pasadena, and Burbank communities. So let's get on with the show. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for supporting the YWCA Glendale, and please enjoy the first ever virtual Legacy Luncheon. Thank you.
Wow, and welcome. What a wonderful way to start today's event. My name is Tara Peterson, and I'm the CEO of the YWCA Glendale. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are grateful that you made the time and commitment to be part of this very special event, where we will be in dialogue with our 2020 Legacy Luncheon honorees. Today's event is a series of conversations that will amplify the YWCA's mission of eliminating racism, empowering women, and promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. I can think of no better mission to commit during the time when our community and our country is experiencing enormous pain and loss caused by COVID-19 public health crisis, and yet another senseless death caused by police brutality and racial inequality. For 95 years, YWCA Glendale has been a trusted leader and convener. We provide safe refuge for families fleeing domestic violence and spaces for our community to connect and grow in our shared mission. This event is an opportunity for us to hear from leaders who are on the front lines of change, women and men committed to having the hard and necessary conversations we need at this moment to move us forward in our personal and collective journey to healing and growth. Today is an opportunity for us to hear about how these leaders are navigating this new terrain, reimagining their work, and envisioning what it takes to move us forward to a just and equitable society where every member is valued and cared for. Thank you again for being a part of this event and for making a contribution to our work. COVID-19 has escalated domestic violence and laid bare the inequities that survivors face. As a result, our programs have stretched to capacity to respond to the need of safe shelter, 24-hour, 7-day-a-week hotline support, teletherapy, legal advocacy, food, and emergency financial assistance. This is coupled with our community's simultaneous call for us to lead in this historic moment demanding institutional and social change. We are here to answer the call. We are rising to meet this moment with your support, and for that, we are so grateful. We could not have created today's event without the support of our sponsors. I am honored to recognize our community leaders who are stepped into this moment with us. Avery Dennison, SoCal Gas, Adventist Health, Dignity Health, the law offices of Donald Schweitzer, Bolton and Company, DataStream, Tony and Vince Espinoza family, USC Verdugo Hills Hospital, Massage Envy, Bradley and Gamilch Lawyers, Ayana Rose, Full Circle Business Law, Pegasus Home Health Care, Richard and Carol Bennett, Susan Hunt, Randy and Suzanne Slaughter, the Anderson Family Trust, Sandra Soltz, Shirley Ann Hill, and To Enlighten. Thank you. I'd like to now introduce Jessica First, a YWCA Glendale board member who will be joining me today to introduce our speakers. Welcome, Jess.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Great. All right. So my name is Jess First, and I will be introducing today's featured speakers. We are incredibly excited to have you guys join us in what we believe is a trailblazing moment for this virtual event. We will be spotlighting the amazing work of women and men at the front lines of social change in Glendale, Burbank, and Pasadena. Our first conversation is on building community. And so here we are honored to welcome Burbank Arts Commissioner Suzanne Weerts, our 2020 Arts and Culture Honoree, whose extensive experience in the world of theater and arts has contributed to a growing dialogue in Burbank and beyond. It has fostered connection, compassion, and empathy. Suzanne has used these platforms to drive change and to raise critical funds to support worthwhile community projects and school programs. Welcome, Suzanne. Our next featured speaker and honoree is Theresa Rivera, a mental health supervisor with the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health, our 2020 Community Impact honoree. Theresa Rivera is an incredible psychiatric social worker who started her career in social work at the YWCA shelter in Salt Lake City. Teresa has been an advocate for survivors and individuals struggling with acute mental health challenges and is dedicated to helping people understand the link between childhood trauma and adverse health outcomes for survivors across their lifespan. She is currently leading a new program to house our homeless neighbors. We know she's been on the front lines providing mental health care to our homeless neighbors who are experiencing COVID-19. Teresa is our 2020 Community Impact Honoree. We thank you for your bravery, compassion, and we welcome you today.
Thank you. Thank you.
The last member of this portion of the conversation is Monica Campagna, a Green Team member at Franklin Elementary and a co-founder of Glendale Environmental Coalition and our 2020 Environmental Honoree. Monica has helped Franklin implement transformative green practices, reducing waste, composting, and sorting waste for organic recycling, and has become a model school for change. She is the co-founder of Glendale Environmental Coalition and played a lead role in preventing Creighton Repowering Project, which is the latest gas-fired plant in California, from coming into our community. Thank you so much, ladies. Welcome, and Tara, take it away.
Thank you.
Wow, each time I hear about your accomplishments, I can't help but to stand in awe of and gratitude for everything you are doing to make our community safer, healthier, and more vibrant. I think that COVID-19 has created a moment for us to pause and reimagine what our world and communities can look like. We've seen the immediate impact on our environment. We weren't driving as much and consuming as much as the same way. Artists are creating new ways for us to connect and build. And we are seeing transformative government and private partnerships and investments happen to house our homeless neighbors. So I would like to kick off today's conversation with you all by asking, how has COVID-19 impacted your work, and what opportunities do you see as we emerge from this crisis for advancing our vision of a more just and equitable world where everyone has an opportunity to thrive? Teresa, I would like to start with your thoughts.
Great. Thank you so much for having me today. This brings up a really important conversation around what do we do with our unsheltered clients that don't have a home to kind of respond to the COVID-19 safer at home order. On March 19th, the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health and the city partners responded to the coronavirus through a variety of measures to slow the spread. As we went out into the streets and tried to outreach a lot of these folks who have more risk at putting them becoming infected. And we were deployed as disaster service workers. From those efforts, we were able to get the most acute individuals that are living on the streets into different sheltered programs. We have different tiers. There's the Tier 1 shelter program, which we call Project Room Key, which we were able to get those folks into a motel room. There's the Tier 2 sites that are for individuals who have tested positive or exhibiting symptoms of COVID-19, and we were able to get them into a medically type shelter program where they could, again, get the treatment they need as well as become safe at home in a safe environment. And then we have our parks and recs that were opened up. That is more of a conjugal space where people can get together with safe distancing and have safer at home. What this brought about was, again, the kind of looking at this group of individuals who, have been marginalized in the community because of poverty, because of untreated mental illness and substance abuse, and really looking at how does this impact them during a pandemic. And in that, we also are dealing with social unrest that came a little bit later, and looking at how that impacts those that were not able to get off the street during some of the difficulties that folks were kind of exhibiting and experiencing out there. But I definitely think it brings up some great conversation about disparities in our community and how we need to respond for these folks to get the treatment that they need and the support that they need.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Monica,
yes, ma'am.
We've seen some environmental changes that we've never dreamed were possible for our air quality and waste production. How do we sustain these changes? How has your thinking changed around consumption and creating an environmentally sustainable world?
Thank you, Tara. First, I just want to say I'm really humbled to be in the presence of all of you amazing women doing this fine work that you're doing. And I want to thank the YWCA board for your nomination. And it's just a real pleasure and honor. So I'd like to be able to say that the pandemic has resolved and maybe given us a light into what can be possible. But I have to tell you that our carbon dioxide levels were the highest last month for the planet than they've ever been. So it's actually, there's still going to be a lot of work to get done to mitigate the effects of climate change. But I will say that right now it's a time to look into a future that we want to see and to really make some substantive changes while we focus on an economic recovery that will have positive impacts for everyone, including the most vulnerable amongst us. I think it's critical that when we think about a future, we think about a clean energy future. We think about how we're going to bring along all communities in our state and in our world, because those communities on the front lines of climate change are usually communities of color, low-income communities who can't afford to move out of where they are, and who deal with what we call the heat island effect. They often have less tree canopy over their neighborhoods. Perhaps they also are living near places where there's oil drilling going on. There's a lot of change that can be made to help protect those communities as we move forward. And it's becoming more and more financially motivating to do that too. And that's the great news, is that this transition is good for developing jobs, and it's important to remember that it's also financially makes really good sense as well. On the waste side of things, unfortunately, a lot during this time, we've seen an uptick in waste, actually. There's more plastic packaging for everything. Our recycling centers have noticed an uptick, especially in, bulky items. I think everyone's been cleaning out their garages. It's just everything has kind of been going up. So, as we move into a new time, I think it's really important for us all to just focus on less is more, trying to find ways to, just conserve. It's the mindset. Like right now, it's hot, and my message to friends is go protect your worm bins. And that might sound like totally bizarre thing to say, but I want to live in a world where people understand what that means. Part of what I do is a lot around food waste, and food waste is a huge producer of methane. It's 40% of what we send to the landfill. And it's sad that we throw away something that's actually really great for our garden. So I'm all about composting and worm bins and stuff. So anyway, I do see a lot of potential good stuff come out of this time too. The sharing that's been going on between neighbors, we used to do that in olden times, and it's coming back. People are getting back to growing food in their gardens, and that is a real act of resilience. You know where it's coming from, you know what's in it, you can have it when you need it. And yeah, just all the bartering that's been going on, hey, I got some oranges, can we trade oranges for lemons? That kind of thing has been beautiful. So, yes.
Thank you. I'm actually going to start trying to grow myself for the first time on my patio. So wish
That's
me
awesome.
luck.
Sarah, you can do it.
Wish me luck. Suzanne, I know arts have been really impacted by COVID-19, probably one of the industries impacted more than any other industry that I've seen so far as local artists, you all not being able to have actual shows, so ticketing, there's a whole backstage of production. Can you tell me a little bit about kind of how COVID-19 has impacted your industry?
Well, thank you, first of all, for having me. I'm so honored to be amongst this group of women making big changes in our communities. So, I think that it's become even more clear that universal access to the arts and culture is essential and not optional. The arts world, I think, has adapted to these challenges as the closures as best as possible. I mean, certainly a lot of things are closed, and a lot of the entertainment business has shut down, but the countless virtual platforms for listening and viewing arts in its many forms, they've been inspiring, and they've given people who've never had the access to professional live music, theater, museum galleries, the chance to experience art all across our country and around the world. So that's an interesting new thing that has come from this. And then I found these messages of solidarity coming into our inboxes from our favorite theaters and arts providers, both through the initial changes from the pandemic, but then also from the Black Lives Matter movement. It's clear that our local venues recognize that social change is advanced through creative expression, and when our communities begin to really celebrate and explore our racial and ethnic identities, I think we create more opportunities for impact and transformational learning, belonging, connection that reflects our shared humanity. And then as an arts education advocate, I got to take this moment to implore our legislative and educational leaders, if they're listening, please don't lose sight of the importance of arts education as part of our children's core experience in school. The arts are always on the chopping block when there are budget cuts. We know this. But as we've seen from all the creativity that's been pouring out of people during this pandemic, the arts, they express our humanity, and our children, they deserve, actually, they just need to have critical arts opportunities and the opportunity for self-expression in their schools. And that's for the sake of their mental health. It's so they can figure out where their talents are, so they can decide who they want to become. And in the end, honestly, if equality and opportunity is what we want for our country's next generation, then we have to invest in their education. We have to, and we can't lose sight of that when we're talking about all of the economic decline right now and the concerns. And then personally for myself and my own work, I have a virtual storytelling show that's coming up on Father's Day. So I too am adapting, and this is out of my comfort zone, but I'm doing a show that's going to benefit Burbank's Family Service Agency. And then I hope to bring back the show that I've done several times, Diversity, Stories of Connection in an Urban Jungle. I'm going to bring it somewhere to a theater or a virtual platform near you in the fall.
That's awesome. Thank you. I think it's really important. One of the things that really stood out for me when you were just speaking is about arts being essential and not optional. And as somebody who provides safety net services, we actually do see arts as part of that safety net. So many of our women, our children are able to heal through arts, and it's such a big part of that. So we are with you all the way. And so thank you so much for shedding light on that. Teresa, I want to kind of go back to you and talk a little bit about homelessness and early childhood trauma. I mean, you're working in the center of both of those things, right? And it's so many just challenges, you know, even before COVID-19 with housing insecurity and how it disproportionately impacts African American community in Los Angeles. I would love to hear more about a new project that you're leading. Can you tell us more about your work and also how the county is responding to homeless during COVID-19?
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, there's a lot of good points there that you brought up, and I think looking at, you know, how we respond to earlyhood trauma and how our brains develop and how we respond to our self-awareness and community, it's developed. And what happens is as we get older, it manifests into possibly depression, PTSD, anxiety. There's many different diagnoses that can come along with that. And, you know, that impacts folks' ability, and we were talking about in the learning environment and being able to, you know, excel in school, and that continues to grow, and that impacts sometimes the socioeconomic status, and then those individuals, you know, have a little bit more challenges in accessing, you know, education at times, and then that could definitely put them, you know, at a disadvantage in society and their ability to go on to college. And so a lot of our folks, you hear their stories, the folks that are experiencing homelessness, and this is just one barrier, you know, childhood trauma. There's many others. I mean, if we look at it from intergenerational trauma and how that's passed down to the physiological, you know, aspects of the body, and how we respond to certain situations. And so it's when we work with our individuals, we do our very best to outreach them, triage them, understand what are some of these underlying issues that they've been exposed to, what they've been experiencing, listening to their stories. And it's such a gift to be able to give somebody hope that is experiencing homelessness. And the county, the Los Angeles County Department of Mental Health, combined with LAHSA, which is the Los Angeles Homeless Authority, and many other community partners, LA Family Housing, all the homeless agencies. I can name many of them. What I just find is beautiful is that we are all coming together right now, and you're seeing a multidisciplinary group of folks from the Department of Health Services, Department of Mental Health Services, the homeless agencies coming together and really, you know, tasked with getting these folks the support that they need. I think COVID-19, as we all know, it's changed. It's kind of changed the way we do things. But Department of Mental Health and all these homeless agencies out there, they're hitting the grounds. They're the boots on the ground. They're doing social distancing, and they're still outreaching these folks to get them housed, to get them the supports that they need. So that way we can eventually link them to ongoing mental health services to really treat some of these underlying issues that developed at a very early age. It brings up a lot of good conversation, again, about racial inequality in our communities, our own implicit biases that we have, and our stigma that comes along with that, and how we interact with one another.
Absolutely.
And just really kind of looking at it from a human aspect, that these are people, these are individuals that need help, that maybe haven't gotten the same opportunities as others, and kind of challenging ourselves to look at what are our own unconscious implicit biases and how we perceive and how we can perpetuate some of these stereotypes. And so it's really a group effort, and I can't tell you, I have never seen such coordination in outreach and homeless services as I am today. So that's the one positive thing, is that it's really brought to light, and it's brought in the city, the county, and people speaking about homelessness and speaking about, we are not letting these folks return back to homelessness. We are going to do everything we can to make sure they get into housing, because we know that with housing, folks, it gives them a better opportunity to stabilize their mental illness, to get the treatment they need for possibly substance abuse treatment, and to reconnect with family.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to go to Monica real quick, and then I'm going to have a last comment from you, Suzanne. But Monica, I know much of the work that you were doing is in the schools. So a lot of that has stopped now. What is your hope for the future once schools start to reopen around creating greener schools?
Oh, thanks, Tara. So, yes, we were able to get our worm bins off campus so that they were taken care of when things shut down. But yes, we are unable to go on campus right now. However, I'm hoping that when we do get back there, and I just was talking to the principal over at Franklin today, we want to take care of our new campus. It's all drought tolerant California natives, bioswales, living fences. It's a real example of how an asphalt territory, a heat island, could turn into a living, beautiful place that the staff and kids, it's a healthier place and inspiring. So we want to take care of that. We want to get back there and take care of it. But the school used Franklin, GUSD used Franklin as kind of a pilot program for recycling organic waste and installing a dishwasher so we could get rid of a lot of our single-use items. And we hope to just continue on with that program as soon as we possibly can, hoping that the habits can keep up, because we had these waste warriors with the kids, kindergarten through 6th grade over there, that are bringing those habits back home and then hopefully into their middle schools. My hope is that the school district will continue that program and begin to take it now into other schools, because they have to by law. And also we're all going as residents, just a heads up, everybody, this is coming soon to a trash can near you. All of the idea of recycling your food waste, we're all going to be learning about that. So the kids can help us, because they will have done it. Awesome. So that's that. And with the Glendale Environmental Coalition work that I do, and I'm not a co-founder, but I'm a core member and got in very early with the group. We've been plugging away. It's like Zoom has opened up a world for us. So we've got a lot of things that we're pushing the city to do, and they have been very responsive. There's a lot of clean energy projects underway. We're trying to get a citizens sustainability commission up and going, and we have a new sustainability office that's hiring an officer. So I won't go on and on, but there's a lot going on, and we just want to stay on top and see the positive changes continue. And we thank our leadership for their support and all of
Absolutely. Suzanne, I just want to end with you. You mentioned something that really resonated for me around the messaging of solidarity and how the arts community has played an instrumental impact on helping us all process what's going on in this world right now. What role, or just what is one thing that you hope that we can gain from this healing process that we're going through, and how is the arts going to help us through that?
Well, I think that the connectivity that the arts is giving us is the big thing. And thinking about different ways that we can be expressive. You know, in my own neighborhood, I have a virtual aquarium, or a neighborhood aquarium, that was created. And Monica, you're going to love this. They did it out of recycled material, and it brings people together. This community connectiveness. I've been inspired by the all the chalk art and the way that we're giving kids the opportunity to make their statements. And so, you know, originally kids were saying, all over the driveways and sidewalks of the neighborhoods, they're saying thank you to the first responders, and now they're saying Black Lives Matter, you know? So I think that we're finding ways to express ourselves. In Burbank, our Cultural Arts Commission is getting ready to launch phase 4 of the electrical box beautification project. I know that they're dotting all over, those beautiful boxes are all over Glendale. Well, Burbank's creeping up on that, so we're going to be adding more boxes to the Magnolia Park District soon. And then, I don't know, we also, at the Cultural Arts Commission, we're going to be encouraging artists to submit pieces that they made during the pandemic. So we're having an online gallery of paintings and illustrations, poetry, short fiction, music, photography, even mixed media art. People can submit their dance videos and photography of pottery and textiles and jewelry. So again, we're looking for ways to engage. I think that that's the main thing that's happening here, is trying to find ways that we can come together until we can actually come together. Teaching artists too are doing some fantastic things. People are getting these opportunities to learn music in free forums that they couldn't have done that before. A local Burbank artist and teacher, Jamie Butterworth, just moved her children's classes online, and she did one last week that was about value and creating shades on tone, and talking about how everyone is just a different shade of brown. And the art that the kids came up with was fantastic. And then I think we're also seeing people, you know, all around the world were singing out of their windows, and choirs and bands have come together in these virtual performance rooms. And I think that that's a beautiful thing. People around the world would never have had the chance to see Hamilton for free, right? And so one of the things that I can't get out of my mind, and it just keeps resonating with me, is the Schuyler Sister song. If you've seen Hamilton, you know it. Look around, look around. Look how lucky we are to be alive right now. History is happening. And what I keep thinking is, I imagine that people in 1776 were pretty darned uncomfortable with all the changes and the uncertainty in the world. But with the change comes opportunity. And I think that the artists are rising to the occasion.
Amen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you all so much for this inspiring conversation on community building. Love, love, love. It just goes to show that how everything is related to everything is related to everything. So I truly appreciate you all. I can't wait to be with you all and see you all and have coffee and hug you. Suzanne has her little Heart and Excellent Award. Yay, I love it. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Be safe and be well.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you.
That was awesome. Ladies, I just love how you all touched on access, access to the arts, access to a room to stay in, access to information about environmental impact, and how this really helps to fuel our community. So thank you for all that you're doing. I'm really excited to introduce the next two folks that we'll be talking to today. They are no strangers to the YWCA Glendale. I'm going to borrow from one of Tara's quotes, which is to describe Randy and Suzanne Slaughter as champions for the YWCA Glendale, mentors for the community, caring guides, and key contributors to our community's most prominent organizations and service groups. We are honored to recognize their longstanding contributions to the Glendale community with a special recognition award. Welcome, Suzanne and Randy.
Hello, friends. It's so great to see you. Not only have you all been personal mentors to me, we're now neighbors. So
welcome to the neighborhood.
yeah, so thank you. I've had the privilege of learning from and witnessing your leadership in Glendale for the past few years. But for those watching this event who are new to our work, could you share with us how you became involved in community service? We'd start with Suzanne. Tell us a little bit about how you became involved, not just in community service, but with the YWCA Glendale.
Well, I became involved with the YWCA Glendale because somebody asked me if I'd be interested in being on the board. To be honest with you, I did not know very much about the YWCA. I knew that my daughter took gymnastics there and my son swam there sometimes, but I really hadn't kept up in touch. It looked like an old building and an old mission, and it was just going to probably go away sometime. Boy, did I really learn. When I got on the board, I just resonated with your mission. It was just absolutely wonderful. And as a survivor of domestic violence and child abuse myself, the mission resonated so much that it gave me a purpose. And I believe that we all have a purpose in our lives. God gives us that purpose, and he gives us the tools, the talents that we need. I was just noticing that with Suzanne and Monica and Teresa. They all have their special talents, and they're using them to make our world better, our community better. And that's really a wonderful thing. I believe that we all have that, and God puts those opportunities in front of us. And he put that opportunity to help the Y in front of me. And it's been absolutely rewarding. And what I get throughout all of this is I know it's right when I have that feeling of bliss, that God has given me that gift, that I have helped do something he wanted me to do. And Y is amazing because they not only provide a shelter for victims who need them right away, they provide a safe haven for possible victims at risk or at-risk individuals to go there and get counseling so they can be empowered to leave and be safe. And that's really wonderful. They give you education, counseling, legal advocacy, and career training, and help to empower women and sometimes men to become, instead of victims, survivors and on their way to a meaningful life. So it's just wonderful. I also, because I am a victim or a survivor, a victim that was a survivor, I really care about the feelings of children. I know the heartbreak and the trauma that they go through. And if I can relieve that just a little bit in some way, that's a wonderful thing for me. I just, as a last thing, I want to say thank you very much to our legislators for their support. Thank you very much to the other awardees. You certainly deserve it. I am honored to be in the midst of you and probably many people who are on this program today. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne. One of the things that you mentioned about your love and your heart for, children that are exposed to domestic violence. And you all know my story. I shared my story a few years ago about my experience being a child exposed to domestic violence. And it was really, people in the community that helped me to move forward and break that cycle. And Randy, you're one of those people. You're one of those people that are ready to talk with children, to interact with kids who have been exposed to domestic violence. And I know that through your work, you've made some major life changing to some of the youth that you have mentored. Can you share more with us about that experience and the important role that you have played and the important role that other people can also play in making a difference in a child's life that has been exposed to domestic violence?
Well, let me say it first started for me because I grew up in a perfect world environment. My parents had a 60-year love affair. And in the 50s, where I was a child, domestic violence was hidden. It was never talked about. I knew nothing about it. Then I joined Glendale Kiwanis several years ago. And as a new member, I was looking for something that I could put my face to. And a member named Lisa Raggio, who had a passion for Kiwanis, but she also had a passion for the Y, came to me after a meeting one day and said, Randy, would you take over a program that we have with the YWCA, because I'm leaving the area. So I'm going, well, what is it? And he said, well, every year our Kiwanis Club gets wish lists from the moms in these shelters, and we go shopping to make a better Christmas for these moms and kids. Well, the first thing that I learned after I got the wish list, I would look at the wish list, family A, family B. The moms had next to nothing for themselves, only for their children. And I questioned, why aren't the moms, they don't even want robes or house shoes or something. And I was told that's why most of these mothers left the relationship, was because of the kids, not themselves. These mothers are not selfish. So that started a cycle with me of understanding what domestic violence was. Then later on, thanks to the several years of doing that and learning more about domestic violence through the YWCA, I was asked by my church if I would be a mentor for a family coming out of a Glendale domestic violence shelter. I'm 67 years old. This was a mother with an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old. I'm going, what do I have to offer a family? And it was a Hispanic family. And I felt like, this wasn't me. I couldn't help them. Well, guess what? Thanks to my, let's just say my time of experiencing what these mothers go through, this family, one of my Kiwanis members got the mom a job. A friend of mine got her car fixed free. A friend of mine worked on the electrical for their small apartment and gave her security lights for free. Well, that started a relationship where this family, the boy now is going to UC Davis. Actually, he sent me a text a few minutes ago. Yeah, he sent me a text a few minutes ago looking for help. He needs a part-time job. So, I took him to his first Dodger game. I took him to his first college football game. I took the family to restaurants where the kids had never really been to a restaurant that had a menu. But this is a wonderful family. The mother is so strong, and these kids are amazing. The daughter, like I say, he's 19 years old now, and they've been to our house. They've been swimming in our pool. They are part of our family. So I feel very good. Not that I've done so much, but they've done for me. And it's good to wake up in the morning and get a text from Edward asking me for advice, everything from girls to homework to school to work, you name it. He's like my son. Yeah. So anyway, thank you, YWCA.
Thank you so much, Randy and Suzanne. I am just so grateful for our friendship and your continued support. And both you and Randy and Suzanne, you guys make an impact on people's lives every single day beyond the YWCA Glendale. You're everywhere in the community making a difference. And we could not do this work without you. And, helping us break the cycle of domestic violence, creating healthy young people in the world that will, can have healthy relationships. You are an example of what it looks like to be in a healthy and loving and supportive relationship. So thank you all so much. Congratulations on your special recognition.
Very much.
And I can't wait to see you all soon. Take care.
Absolutely. See you in the neighborhood.
Yes.
All right. I am really excited for our next conversation featuring two leaders chartering pathways in our community's emotional and economic recovery. We are thrilled to have Ani Tazasrian, CEO of DishDivvy, and our 2020 Technology Honoree join us. Ani's company is using new technology to connect local home cooks with hungry neighbors with home-cooked meals. So you may have read about her work a few weeks ago in an LA Times article, which was expanding upon this micro enterprise field in Los Angeles County. And she's also helped to pass legislation, including AB 626, which allows home cooks to sell 60 meals a week and earn up to $50,000 a year. With industry leaders projecting 25% of restaurants will not open due to our public health crisis, Ani, I think, is in a position to really help people, recover and continue to be well-fed, in their souls and in their bellies. We're also privileged to have Tamika Farr, CEO of El Centro de Amistad, and our business and industry honoree join us today. Our YWCA community may recognize Tamika for her tenure as the past executive director of the YWCA Pasadena Foothill Valley. Thank you. Today, Tamika leads 3 counseling centers that bring accessible mental health and supportive services to over 100,000 individuals across the San Fernando Valley. With May being Mental Health Awareness Month and more attention being paid to this critical need more than ever in this present moment, we have a lot to learn from her as well. Ladies, thank you so much for joining our conversation.
Hello. So excited to be here. Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, good to see you all. I feel like this is like girl talk time now because you guys are girls, but you also are inspiring leaders. You're innovative. You are just truly amazing and remarkable women and business leaders in our community. And given that we are just facing some challenging times, and we see COVID-19 has devastated the health and well-being for many of our communities and industries. And, with the recent murder of George Floyd has sparked a nationwide response to institutional racism and inequities across our country. Your insights and leadership are deeply valued and critical to these discussions, both for pathways to healing, but also economic recovery. So I'm going to start with Tamika. With COVID-19 and the murder of George Floyd has brought to attention, just a nation's consciousness around the need and deeper understanding for mental health, right? You start hearing people talk more and more about just making sure people are taking care of themselves. I know I personally had to take a self-care day on Monday after participating in the vigil. I was just depleted and exhausted. And I know people are talking about mental health on a whole different capacity now and the need for mental health services. And you, as a trusted leader in this community providing mental health services, how has your organization stepped into this moment to provide mental health care at such a critical time?
That's a great question. Before COVID, 1 in 5 individuals in America reported having mental illness. And now, as we are dealing with COVID and the civil unrest, 60% of people, which is 3 in 5 people, are expressing that they are dealing with mental illness, particularly increased stress, anxiety, and depression. Our organization took the opportunity. I always find, as a leader, an opportunity to grow, even in the midst of difficult and uncertain times. So we went, like most of us, like we're doing now, went viral with our services. So we were able to serve more individuals because we didn't have to now deal with the traffic in LA or missed appointments. Technology has been our friend through this pandemic, and we've been able to increase the individuals that we serve. And we also have provided several virtual sessions for free. On a weekly basis, we have general groups for the public, which are, again, free. We also have parenting groups. We've had wellness groups, self-care groups. So we've been able to reach the community at large and make sure they feel supported during this transition.
Great. Tim, can you tell me, what do you think some of the leaders in your industry are learning from this moment? Tamika.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
What are leaders learning in this moment?
Yeah.
To be responsive, that, when the pandemic occurred and when this unrest occurred, we were not prepared for it. We were not anticipating it. And so now we are having to not only make sure that our staff and clients feel supported, but also that we're authentic in our leadership. I have had to take a stand on anti-racism and systematic injustices. And these are conversations that people would shy away from usually. in the workplace, but now your staff and your clients want to know where you stand on the issue. So you have to be responsive. I think leaders have learned to be responsive to what's going on in the community and to also be authentic in their leadership.
Absolutely. Thank you. I think when I think about, folks' mental health, a lot of your mental health has to deal with your ability to make money and to raise money and to be economically self-sufficient. And I know, Ani, the restaurant industry has been devastated by COVID-19.
Yeah.
How do you see companies like DishDivvy innovating at this time to create opportunities to employ cooks and address food insecurity issues so many communities are facing? And how are companies like DishDivvy innovative tools for economic recovery?
Yeah, I think for those of you who don't know what DishDivvy is, I could just give a quick synopsis. But basically, we launched about 2 years ago. We're a tech company that actually was born in Glendale, and we connect local home cooks with nearby neighbors. And so with the onset of COVID, the technology that we had built, which is purely focused on a decentralized approach to food preparation and food distribution through these home kitchens, that are already in our neighborhoods. And in fact, we had already built technology for no contact pickup. It was always curbside pickup. We had already built technology for decentralized food uploading and chatting with people in your neighborhood. So technically, we didn't even have to change anything in our platform to adjust to this new reality. What we did see when sort of the lockdowns just happened is there was a halt in ordering across the board on the consumer side, and for good reason. I mean, people were scared. People were rushing to hoard ingredients in their homes. And then a couple weeks later, as we saw people ordering again from restaurants and then from us, that consumer fear relaxed a little bit. On the economic opportunity side, it was a whole different story, right? We have so many displaced restaurant workers. Our cook applications have been surging because of that. And the reality is that it's actually not 20. I think it's now the new estimate is maybe 35 to 40% of food establishments may not open. They'll just permanently be closed after this crisis. And that's a lot of unemployed people, and we've talked to so many folks who've worked for large chain restaurants for years who have nothing to fall back on. We've worked for folks who are just a line cook, in a small mom and pop who have nothing to fall back on. And what we're looking to do is, offer them a business that's theirs, but that they can have a turnkey opportunity with minimal capital investment to kind of get back on their feet. And there's a lot of the people in this segment of cooks is minorities, women, immigrants, folks on disability, just all types of folks who've been just left out of the commercial food space. And that's always been a driving mission from sort of when we launched this 2 years ago.
So we love DishDivvy at YWCA Glendale. And actually, when this is over, I cannot wait to eat our DishDivvy order. Not only is it a clever concept, but it's also been a charitable one. We've had people donate home-cooked meals to be delivered to our shelter residents, and you yourself have made some of these very generous donations to our program. We thank you. You were talking about your core mission and kind of, around serving women of color, people of color, immigrants, and single moms, and how this opportunity makes it more accessible for those that are most vulnerable in our community. People who are not able to work a 9-to-5 or not able to pay for childcare while working. Can you tell us a little bit more about this model and how it is financially empowering mothers, immigrants, and those who are seeking flexible work opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, I think the COVID crisis has exposed even further that the future of work is decentralized, right? That a lot can be done remotely, and we're so lucky to live in an age where technology is able to facilitate that. And so the future of policy, right, and government needs to get with the times and realize that the future of work is different. And this relates to the food industry too. Single moms who are trying to juggle so much, who need a flexible schedule, they have this resource of their idle home kitchen. It's fully equipped to feed people. We've been feeding people through homemade food for centuries, right? If not thousands of years. And we haven't had mass outbreaks of foodborne illness. And what we're seeing with this lockdown is that people are doing that even more now, and trying to do peer-to-peer, whether it's bartering or getting a home cooked meal. And so this is very empowering for someone who feels like they have no other options for economic opportunity. And so very much like Uber, you can schedule your dishes in your menu around your own schedule. You use the resource of your kitchen. We provide like hand-holding through the entire onboarding process. And also, we're working hard to get policy through the different counties. LA County has been very difficult to work with. Of course, this bill on the state level was passed with unanimous bipartisan support, with the presumption that it would help these people in underrepresented labor groups. But unfortunately, the people in the underrepresented labor groups don't have a voice in the county. And so we need to be able to strategize and unite, all these folks to put pressure on the county. So, COVID has shed light to show policymakers that, you need to adjust. I think when the lockdown first happened, we saw restaurants turning their dining rooms into grocery stores, and the health department in LA was like, oh, no, you can't do that. And there's an uproar from neighbors and, constituents saying, hey, like, we need to survive. We need better policy. And in an instant, there was resolutions passed to allow that to happen. So we know that government can work to help these underrepresented groups. We just need to put pressure to show that the time is now, and people need the economic opportunity today.
Absolutely. Economic self-sufficiency is such a big part of a woman's safety, and so is mentorship and modeling, and supporting young women. And Tamika, I really appreciated how much you touched on the power of mentorship for and by women in your tribute video interviews. Mm-hmm. Can you share about the mentorship you received and how it has shaped your journey to becoming a leader? Tell us a little bit about who your mentors are and how that has really helped you to be the person that you are today.
During my involvement as executive director with the YWCA Pasadena, I grew so much during that time. In particular, the mission. I love the mission, eliminating racism and empowering women. I always say that mission is not for sissies, right? And so because it's such a strong mission, it attracts strong women with strong perspectives. And so I had the opportunity to work with a board of very strong women and subcommittees that were strong women. And I was a young executive director. I believe I was 30 when I had the opportunity to first lead as executive director. And I made tons of mistakes. And many times they would correct me, and so initially you kind of feel, your feelings are a little hurt because someone called you out on a mistake. But then as being one that wants to continue to grow and to get better, you realize they didn't have to offer that advice to you, and they didn't have to pull you aside and tell you a better way to do things. I have always been I've built relationships with my supervisors over the years, particularly the board of director presidents or my executive directors, because if you want to grow, you have to literally attach yourself to people that are in positions that you want to be in. So Sandra Davis Houston, she recently retired. She's a friend of mine. She's 75 and she's a Spitfire. And I know when she speaks with me, she's going to tell me the truth. And she was the board president of the YWCA when I was there. I had the opportunity to also meet a woman who's since passed, Tobiosis. She was a white woman, but she was also very involved in racial justice, to the point that when you would be present with her in a meeting, she'd ask you, what have you done for racial justice? Because I was a freedom fighter. And I tell her, I am not a freedom fighter, but I'm here to learn and I want to do my part. So again, you walk in the room with these women and they call you out. And I learned that it was okay to put the subject of racial justice on the table. And it's okay to grow and learn from those women that are around you.
Absolutely. And Ani, Ani, a last question for you, because I'm equally as inspired by you and your leadership journey and being a CEO of DishDivvy. And tell us, what was your biggest inspiration to help you move forward and to chart this new path?
Yeah, I think when I first had the idea of, hey, you know, my mother-in-law makes a lot of food, why can't she sell it? It was a simple idea, but it snowballed into such a bigger mission. And when I first, and I didn't realize how important this was when I did it at the time, but when I first launched the company, I sat down for probably a whole day or two to think about what are our mission and our values. And I wrote those down, and they're the same. They haven't changed until today. And I saw some of them actually be mentioned in previous speakers on connecting community, right? Sharing amongst peers, economic opportunity. So cultivating opportunity is one of our mission statements. So that in conjunction with becoming essentially like a policy advocate or lobbyist, which most people call overnight, and realizing that your voice matters and that you can sort of have this grassroots effort to get legislative change passed in like a state like California. Ellen Assatrian helped us along that process, and she's a mentor to me to realize, and she's really empowered me to realize that one person's voice actually matters. And we're seeing that, of course, right now with the George Floyd situation of, individual voices coming together can create a movement and create ultimate change, where that's become a pivotal moment in my career. Like having that bill passed on the state level, I realized that one thing is going to help millions of people, many of them women, majority of them women, for years to come. And I just didn't realize that something like that was possible when I first set out to just build technology, right?
Wow. Thank you both so much. I, instantly gravitated to you all both when I had an opportunity to meet you all in different settings and different times. And I'm so thankful for your sisterhood. I'm thankful for your leadership. And just thank you so much for being a part of our community and helping it to make it a better place for all. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And the gratitude goes both ways, Tara. Thank you so much for all that you do.
Yes.
Thank you, Tara.
Well, thank you, Ani and Tamika. I'm also grateful to see women in the role of CEO. So I just want to give you guys a shout out for that. I wish I had seen more of that when I was a young lady. But I think that is a great segue into what is going to be our last conversation for today. Let's talk to some young folks who are actually making history right here in Glendale. We are delighted to have Hasmeek Rochon join us. She is a UCLA undergrad and community organizer, with ANCA, Armenian American Grassroots Advocacy, and our 2020 Young Woman Honoree. Hasmeek's work has focused around raising awareness for Armenian genocide and violence against women in Armenia and here in the U.S. Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
I think we also have with us Phyllis Kim, and Phyllis Kim is the Executive Director of CARE, Comfort Women for Readiness and Education. Phyllis's work has focused on raising awareness of the comfort women issue, the largest case of human trafficking in the 20th century, where hundreds of thousands of young women and girls were coerced, abducted, and imprisoned as sex slaves by the Japanese Imperial Armed Forces during World War II. CARE led the movement to establish a peace movement and statute dedicated to comfort women in Glendale Central Park. Thanks to the work of CARE, the history of this human rights violation has now been incorporated into the California's 10th grade history books. CARE continues to raise awareness of its issues across several educational platforms so that history never repeats itself. Phyllis, we are honored to also have you join us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I believe Michelle Yee was going to join our conversation, but I think we are experiencing some power outages here in Los Angeles, and she may not be present. We will add her if she is able to join. But Tara, please take it away.
Great. Thank you, Jess. It's so nice to be here with you, both Phyllis and Hasmeek. You all are both just doing incredible work that is advancing our mission of eliminating racism and empowering women. So much of your work is about bringing people together in the name of injustice, whether it be sexual violence, genocide, or human trafficking. So we see these violations that we listen to and believe survivors and offer them our support. And most importantly, that we work together to ensure that these injustices never happen again. I am very eager to dive into a final conversation today on social justice and social change. To Phyllis, I'd like to start with you.
Yes.
This conversation with you. Your work is a powerful example of cross-movement connection and support. I would love for you to share about your experience in creating the Peace Monument in Glendale, and to share more about how Glendale's Armenian community, with its own history of genocide, understood what CARE was setting out to accomplishment, and how they stood by you in your work to publicly acknowledge what has been experienced by the Comfort Women.
Thank you so much for having me, first of all, and I am deeply honored to be included with the other amazing women making history and making changes in our community. I am so deeply honored. Thank you, Tara, for this opportunity to share our work with Glendale family. We worked to pass House resolution recognizing and urging Japanese government for the systematic sexual violence against hundreds of thousands of women during World War II, to recognize and formally apologize for this history, and make sure the next generation learns about this history so that it doesn't repeat itself. That was in 2007. So we continued our work. And as you mentioned, it is so important to have this tragedy publicly acknowledged. So that's why we thought it was a great way to raise more public awareness by way of having a public monument in city property or other public properties. So we started working with the city of Glendale in 2012, and by 2013, we were able to move ahead with the installation of the Peace Monument, which is a girl sitting on a chair next to an empty chair. It's very symbolic. It's not a big monument, but it touches people's heart, and it has a lot of symbolism. Well, in 2013, when we had a public hearing about this monument design, more than 100 people showed up from Japan and some from the US, from Japanese American community, opposing to the monument, and hundreds of letters came from Japan opposing the monument and opposing the courageous women's testimonies, saying that they were just, voluntary sex workers who went to serve Japanese soldiers during World War II. Thankfully, and I am really, really proud of the city of Glendale, city council, and the Armenian American community for standing very strong behind these grandmas, courageous grandmas, as well as, remembering and keeping this history alive by supporting the installation of the Peace Monument in our Central Park, because I think, because of their own Armenian genocide not being recognized by the Turkish government. I believe, Armenian community especially were able to understand the trauma of the important history being denied. So in 2014, there was a lawsuit actually against the city of Glendale, demanding removal of the Peace Monument from Glendale Central Park, which went all the way up to the US Supreme Court. Of course, we won, but it took us 3 years to fight that lawsuit. And I also want to thank and acknowledge the international law firm Siddeley and Austin, LLP, for providing pro bono representation for the city of Glendale. So it was just, not just our community, but also the Japanese American community, Chinese community, Filipino community, Armenian community coming together to, work in unity to remember and make sure that, this global pandemic of sexual violence against women needs to stop and does not happen again.
Thank you. That togetherness is extremely important. And it's always amazing to see communities come together, different communities come together to support another community's quest for acknowledgement. And you know, given everything that's recently gone on with the Black Lives Matter, and seeing communities come together all over from all different sectors, I know
Right.
that the Armenian community in Glendale has definitely also stood up and were supported. And I want to talk a little bit about Hasmik, because you guys were talking about Black Lives Matter and Armenians for Black Lives Matter way before this recent incident. And so I really want to talk a little bit more about your community organizing work. And can you just share a little bit more about your work and really helping to build bridges between the Armenian community, but also making sure that you're keeping your mission and your focus front and center as well?
Yeah, for sure. Also, I just wanted to begin with saying thank you so much. I really do appreciate being in this space with so many other cool women. It's truly an honor. As for my work, I do want to say that the work that I do is definitely not individual based. My labor is collective. I began like my involvement in community organizing when I joined the Glendale chapter of the Armenian Youth Federation, where I met my like current comrades who are doing valuable work in the Armenian community. From running meetings to keeping your eye on the cause, this organization has taught me a lot and has given me the space to create change. Within the AYF, I found home in the United Human Rights Council, also known as the UHRC, which aims to address human rights violations, foster that cross-communal collaboration, and progressing the Armenian community when it comes to social and public issues. I also got obviously heavily involved with the ANCA, and I've been given the opportunity of exercising my activism with ANCA Glendale, and as we continue to support the social, economic, cultural, political rights of the diaspora and Armenian community. Through UHRC, though, I was very involved with my comrades in obviously addressing racial justice. I think the most one of the best work that we did was organizing with Black Lives Matter LA, Mi Gente, American Indian Movement SoCal, Swana Alliance, and addressing the conversation of racial justice. I think it was amazing to see Armenians, Black folks, Indigenous, Latinx folks, and people from Swana regions to be in the same facility in the Armenian Center. I think that was truly heartwarming, and us just addressing the idea of racism, because we all go through it. Our struggles are very different though, but we do have the same enemy, and that's the unjust for sure. I think right now it does show that allyship is very key, because liberation is truly collective. You can't just say, oh, the Armenian genocide happened, and then you're silent when, you know, our Black brothers and sisters are literally being killed in this country. We can't do that. We need to be on the right side of justice all the time. And when it comes to work for gender-based violence that goes on in the homeland and here too, it also involves our comrades just, you know, addressing that conversation in our communities. Most of the time we you know, bring this conversation in our homes and our community, and the community responds in two ways. One, they either accept the patriarchal reality that does exist, because gender-based violence is not isolated, and it happens in every country, every space, every home, unfortunately. But it's realizing that this is not isolated. And either we obviously get, you know, opposition. People don't believe that this doesn't exist. This is a private matter. This is Armenians don't do this. But I think the work that I do with my comrades does involve you know, progressing the Armenian community and the communities around us to see that, you know, gender-based violence is a public health issue, it's a social issue, and also racism. Like, we need to work towards justice in every way, and racism and sexism both kill, and we need to end that.
Absolutely.
So
Thank you. So Hasmik, I have another just question for you, because as we hear Ani talk about her legislative victory at the state level and Phyllis share her historical legislation at the federal level, I know that you, Hasmik, were boots on the ground and were able to experience your first kind of experience in seeing something happen at the federal level that formally recognizes the Armenian genocide by the House and Senate. Tell us how that experience has changed and expanded your work.
So the supported passage of HRES 296, which was adopted by the U.S. House of Representatives, and the unanimous adoption of SRES 150 by the U.S. Senate, really truly emboldened two things for me. One is that I think this was truly a homage for my ancestors. We've been doing this work literally decades, and I want to shout out to my comrades, the ANCA and the AYF. We've been doing this forever, and at Capitol Hill, in California, across the nation. We've been doing this work for a while, and truly one thing that really stood out to me is that my ancestors finally got that wave of relief, because justice, this is only one step towards justice. Our work is not done, obviously, but it also told me that activism truly works. So many people have told us, this is not going to happen. This is you don't trust American politics. This won't happen. They are gonna feed off to the Turkish lobby. But it happened, and it was a sense of relief, and it showed that community building and fighting for justice it could be realized. But it also, again, it shows that the work is not over, and in terms of work, it does expand our work. It does give us more credibility. Unfortunately, it makes our work more credible in American politics, I want to say, but it does say that we need to still extinguish the denialism that the oppressive state of Turkey still profits off of. We need reparations. We need restitutions. We still have to liberate Western Armenia from the colonizing hands of Turkey. We still need to struggle for the self-determination of Artsakh. We still need to free Nakhchivan and Javakh. The work is not over, but the passage of these resolutions was definitely a precedent, and it does. This is like the fruit of our labor. ANCA and AYF, we've been committed to genocide recognition since our founding, and we're not going to stop until we can move back to a liberated Western Armenia.
Thank you. One of the things that really resonated from both of your stories is really around the importance of acknowledging, and it's kind of like the first step. Sometimes you hear folks say, well, what's a resolution, or those are just words on a paper, and what's a monument going to really do? And given that we're in the state and understanding Glendale's historical history with African Americans and how it was a sundown town, and very few people don't even realize the history of Glendale. What would be your advice for those people in the community that are looking to our city to address Glendale's historical racial past? What would be your advice to those folks that are boots on the ground trying to ask for acknowledgement in that area? Can we start with Phyllis?
Well, I think the leadership from the city council is crucial in terms of setting the tone of the city, and in dealing with some of those racial injustices happening not only in other states and cities, but also in California, in our cities too. So I think the leadership has a lot to do with educating the public and the citizens, but also on the citizens level, I think, based on my own experience of learning so much about Armenian genocide history and the general history of Armenian Americans and their struggle to having Armenian genocide recognized by the American public, it has been a great learning experience. And not only we wanted our history be recognized and educated by other communities, but also working together brought us enlightenment and education. So I think, working together with other communities in the city is really crucial and important.
Great. Hashmi, do you have any thoughts around that?
Yes. As for advice, I think when it comes to organizing, especially against, for racial justice in Glendale, I want to note, I think we're towards a good step. I think the event that took place on Sunday was a radical step. Whenever you do remember that Glendale was, a huge white supremacist center, and I think we need to stay persistent. We need to stay committed. We need to remember that this is possible. So many times, personally, as an organizer, I do get, discouraged. I feel like sometimes the work is, it can never be done. We can never reach it. But I do think that there is success in organizing, and we've been seeing it this past few weeks with the Black Lives Matter movement that's been happening nationwide. I would say that we need to, stick together. We need to work together. We need to build coalitions with all communities, because liberation is for all of us. Black liberation is justice. It's for everyone, and we need to fight for that justice that's going on. And I think if we build community, I think that's the best way. And if we keep our leadership accountable to the things that they promise us, I think we could work towards that.
Thank you, Hasmik. We now have Michelle joining us. And hi, Michelle. Thank you for joining us. And I have to just tell you, I am so inspired by young people right now, seeing them lead, everything from the March for Lives in Washington, D.C., then also all the work that young people were doing around, making sure that we are taking care of our environment, and then women and young women stepping up and being involved in Me Too. You created a campus group to recognize sexual violence and support survivors, Me Too, YWCA. This is a hard topic to take on in a high school. We've been working for many years to try to have education in high schools around this issue, so we know it's a difficult thing to take on. Can you share with us your experience was like, and tell us a little bit about who your supporters were on campus and how you were able to, to move this group forward, and what that really meant to you?
Yeah, so I think, taking on a subject that can be really emotionally draining and honestly kind of triggering for some students was really hard. So what I decided to do is kind of focus on the actions that aren't really talked about, but are really crucial to addressing rape culture. And so we addressed things like pressure that people might feel because of social media, being coerced into sending an explicit picture that they don't want to send. Or we talked about rumors that a lot of people, a lot of my friends especially, they've experienced having rumors spread about them, about their sexual history, whether it's real or not. It has the intent to harm their reputation. And so I think just by focusing on the things that are really relevant but aren't talked about in that sexual harassment video that we are shown every single year, we wanted to address those things because it's the things that people are more aware of, and that they've experienced happen either to them or to their friends. And so that's how we kind of dealt with not having to deal with something that was so emotionally draining for people. And then I think also our board really struggled with kind of maintaining that balance between respecting someone's boundaries about talking about the subject, but then also trying not to be shamed into silence about what we're doing and really take on the activism head on. And so I think that was kind of a struggle that we had, but we had our club advisor help us a lot. She helped us get more resources about what the district was doing and how the staff was kind of trained with this kind of situation. And we were actually planning a district-wide event to talk about like Title IX, our rights, staff rights, address like students in the LGBTQ plus community and students with disabilities. But we couldn't have that because of the pandemic. But then I know my next year co-presidents, they are planning to talk about like youth homelessness. And so obviously sexual violence is a component of that. And then we also like have this great network of other clubs at our school. We have a bunch of cultural clubs that we're really close with because another focus that we have is like inclusion and like racial discrimination. And so we have them to kind of help us and like use that as like a support system and have more like people in our school like be engaged in our activities and our activism. And so I think just having that network of clubs has been really helpful, and having our co-advisor be a great resource really helped us this year.
Thank you so much for the work you're doing and the work that you did to raise awareness about sexual violence and supporting people that experience it on your campus. We know that it is critical to helping prevent future acts of sexual violence and also helping people heal. I want to just thank you all so much. You guys are social justice, social change warriors. It takes a lot of work to do the work that you do. I hope that you take care of yourself. And I just want to just leave by saying that I see you and I hear you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for being with us today. I would like to take a moment to invite Jess back to close out our event.
Thank you guys so much for everything. I personally felt like I was really in need of some inspiration. And I think hearing from leaders within our community of all kinds really made a difference for me today. So thank you so much. And thank you for being part of this conversation. On behalf of the board of directors, we would like to thank all of the honorees and honor you for the fine work that you're doing in the community. We also want to take a thank to all of our supporters who have joined us today for opening your hearts and minds and for being part of the YWCA Glendale community. And of course, how can I forget? Tara, thank you for your leadership. You are a friend, you are an excellent CEO and a visionary. And, we are so grateful to have you as part of our organization and helping to lead the way to change in our community. This event was very much about community and working towards a shared vision. By joining us today, you are a part of all of this, and we are grateful and we welcome you. We are also asking you to stretch with us. As Tara mentioned in the beginning of our event, the YWCA has had to really stretch to make sure that we could accommodate all of the needs of the community during this very trying time. And we're asking you to help to support our work. But before we do so, I'd like to share with you a little bit about our programs that we are offering. As I'm sure you guys know, we run an emergency shelter that we have recently expanded to 16 beds for survivors of domestic violence. And we serve survivors through Glendale, Burbank, and Pasadena. And we also provide services for them 24/7. There is no time of day where the YWCA Glendale will not provide support. We give case management, we provide therapy for adults and children, legal advocacy, as well as emergency financial assistance. With COVID-19, we have stretched to respond to a 32% increase in hotline calls, 40% increase in teletherapy sessions, and a 150% increase in requests for food and essential items. So you can see right now there is just a lot of work to be done. Aside from that, we also run Camp Rosie, and this is a 6-week summer camp program and is our largest violence prevention initiative. Our hope is that we can help to foster youth and start to eliminate some of the factors with young women by engaging them in STEAM education, leadership development, civic engagement, workshops, all centered on building healthy relationships. This summer, we are partnering with the YWCA Pasadena to help expand the reach and impact of Camp Rosie and will now be serving double the number of campers. And so we will have over 100 campers this year, and we're really excited to be offering those services to what we hope will be, the female leaders of tomorrow. So in this moment, we want to continue stretching as an organization. We want to continue helping and reaching out. And so I'm asking for your support. I'm asking you to go to our website today and make a donation in any amount that feels comfortable for you. Every dollar counts, and we're so grateful for anything that you can do. If you prefer, you can also put a bid into our online auction. A lot of great stuff there, a lot of fun things. I think, unfortunately, the thing I had my eye on is now gone, which is an In-N-Out package, but I'll find my way to that one. And then, we're just asking you to stay connected to us during this time. So stay connected to us on social media. Check out the emails that we send out. It tells you about the advocacy work that we are doing, as well as how we're engaging in the community during this trying time. So please do stay in touch. But mostly, I'm asking you to share today's conversation about the work that we are doing and about the work that these wonderful honorees are doing with the community. It's inspiring to me. I believe it's inspiring to you because you've tuned in today. And please do continue to share that with family and friends. So we're so grateful for everyone for joining us for today. And please do help us stretch and grow and continue to be a part of this conversation and provide leadership and inspiration within the community.
Thank you, Jess. And I also like to take a time to thank Heather Masterson, who developed and created this amazing program for us. We could not do this without her creativity, without her experience and her talent. So thank you so much, Heather. She's behind the scenes. You can't see her now, but she's here with us. So I wanted to thank her. Thank you all again for joining us. We look forward to continuing our work together to eliminate racism and empower women. And save the date for April 15th, 2021 for our 24th Legacy Luncheon. Thank you all again. Be well, and we will see you soon.
Have a great day.